What's up, everybody? This is Mark Schalero, the owner of MS Classic Cars, and today I'm here with Mark Gimbalvo from Creative Rod and Customs. He came all the way from Pennsylvania today, himself personally with his truck, enclosed trailer, to deliver us, which we're super excited to own, this absolutely stunning 1968 Chevrolet C10 custom pickup truck. I'm gonna let Mark do a lot of the talking. I'm just gonna ask questions. This is a total off-the-cuff interview here with Mark. This is the first time that I've actually seen this vehicle. We just literally unloaded it. I will mention it's pouring rain. We just beat the rain, so if it's a little loud, I apologize. Over here on the table, we have a show board, which kind of goes over some of the details on the truck. And a couple things I just want to point out before Mark gets going here. This is actually the paperwork on the Spec Series Roadster Shop chassis. That's right, this vehicle sits on a Roadster Shop chassis, which is awesome. I also want to pull out this book here. We're a huge fan of this book, Truck Hub magazine. This truck obviously made the cover, which is a really big deal because this company is very particular. It got like a huge spread inside here that we'll have pictured within our photo gallery when we list it. And also, in my opinion, the most impressive thing about this, and again, Mark deserves all the credit for getting this at SEMA. This was a Chevrolet Design Award-winning truck. So Chevrolet actually gave this car, an award, which is a really big deal, and this is also included. So we'll get right into it. So Mark, first thing I'd like everybody to know is a little bit about the history of the truck and how you actually acquired it.
We built it for a customer a few years back. I built a couple other vehicles for that customer, and he had decided he wanted a custom truck, so this is kind of, we kind of put a plan together. We got with Eric Brockmeyer Designs and had some renderings done, talked about color, stance. I think the kind of objective of the project was to have a modern kind of C10, something that still had the classic lines, classic look, but we wanted to update it like if it was built in 2020 kind of. So some of the things that we incorporated into the truck, you'll kind of see some modern cues.
And just to, before you get into the body, real quick, so people know, with your company, you've actually built some cars that have achieved some serious awards over...
Yes, we've been lucky over the years. A lot of magazine vehicles, numerous good guys, top 5 of the year, street ride of the year, custom ride of the year, truck of the year finalists. We had a grade 8 car for the Riddler Award a few years ago.
Okay.
2 SEMA GM Design Award winners. So yeah, we've done a lot of stuff and been lucky with the awards. And,
so you've accomplished a lot at you're going to be 40 years old tomorrow?
Yeah, and I started the shop when I was 19, so we've been in business 20 years this year.
20 years.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure people knew a little bit about you, and you Google this company, check them out, right in Pennsylvania. Definitely a shout out. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
so maybe what you can do is tell us what has been done to the body. Maybe we can start from the front.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of little subtle stuff, but I mean, some of the major things you'll notice is the custom hood here. We recessed the cut, moved everything down, welded in these recesses to kind of mimic 2017, 2018 Silverado. The front bumper has a ton of custom fab work in it. That's all hand built, hundreds of hours of metal work in this truck, and recessed the grills back into the front of the truck, just really tightened everything up, cleaned it up a lot. All the radiator support covers, the inner fenders, the firewall, it's all hand built sheet metal, so again, a couple hundred hours worth of fabrication work there. One of the biggest things with this truck, and I think that helps achieve that modern look, is the flush mounted glass on it. And we didn't want to go with an acrylic window or one of these aftermarket windows, so that's actually a stock C10 windshield. We ended up chopping the roof an inch around it to make it fit, because when you remove the rubber from one of these vehicles, you have a big channel there. So we chopped the roof an inch, and then the A-pillars on either side, they're custom built. They're a ½ inch wider than a factory A-pillar.
Oh, I see. So this whole area here is actually...
Yep, this is all new metal built in here, and it's the factory one would have had a bead here and ended here, and the rubber would have sat over that. And then there's an inch out of the roof, and I think the back we took 3/4 out, because from the factory, these they almost have a reverse rake to them. We wanted to level it out, so we evened that out by doing an inch in the front, 3/4 in the back. The whole cowl has all been shaven and molded into the body, so when we did that, we had to make custom fender mounting locations, because normally they're under the cowl on these trucks. So Just a lot of little stuff there.
You guys did a beautiful job with this glass too.
Yeah, there was a
Everything
lot of time just fitting that into there.
Oof,
and,
beautiful work. And understand, everybody, that award that they received at SEMA, the Chevrolet design, is not just the idea, but how they actually made it all work and the quality of it once it was finished. So when you actually look at this, it is, we're speechless. Like, I have seen, obviously, over my time, how many thousands of cars. We've almost sold 1,000 cars in MS Classic Cars. We'll be there probably by the end of next year. So we've owned some of the best, and I'm looking at this body on this truck. It is the definition of perfection. If I were going to a Chevrolet dealership and Chevrolet built this, I don't know, I would, it's not, right, it's, like, I really wouldn't notice the difference.
Yeah.
You start paying attention to the, you know,
a lot of time in the gapping, and if you notice too, like, there's not a single visible spot weld or seam in the truck, so every factory seam has been welded solid, bodywork, every spot weld in the door jamb, fenders, everything's gone. Another neat kind of thing is the whole rain gutter was actually cut off this truck and tucked into the body about another 1/4 of an inch just to tuck everything closer in there.
Wow.
Just to tighten up the appearance. The door handles, they're off a 2016 Corvette, so they're all actuated by an electronic popper. So,
which is great. First time we've ever seen that actually before, which is...
Yeah, it's just kind of a neat feature, and then the latches are out of a 2018 Silverado, so they'll shut like a new car. You're not going to sit there slamming your door 20 times. But yeah, just a lot of neat little things, you know, around the back of the truck. You can kind of see the bed's been fully welded together, everything's been molded. All the sheet metal work is in here is custom.
This is beautiful.
Yeah, we did a matte finish on it. It kind of gives it a nice look, and we wanted to do something different rather than just putting metal or wood in it like everyone does. So we found this. It's actually boat decking material made for docks, and we just thought it was kind of a neat, just a neat alternative to doing, you know, wood or just metal in there.
Awesome, awesome work. And so talk a little bit about these wheels. So it's one of my favorite parts of the vehicle is the wheel selection.
Yeah, and they are from Billet Specialties. They're called the Hydro, and the rear is a 20x12, and the front is a 19x9 in it. And it's got a 345, 235/35 on the back there, so it's a pretty wide tire back.
Massive brakes, huge brakes.
Yeah, 14-inch Willwoods.
Love the color selection with the calipers too.
Yeah, and that was something that a lot of people were on the fence on a little bit, but it was a little bit bold, but we tied it in with the striping on the hood, the engine, transmission, all that stuff is painted body color as well. The block was all smoothed out and base coat clear coated. So just a lot of detail on it.
So pick that up, Corey. You can see here, they've actually taken this color here. This is the kind of stuff that I give these builders so much credit for. I'm not a designer by any means. I just love looking at all this stuff. But if you look at the center piece of the wheel, clearly it's different than what the polished lip is. When you look at these calipers here, he took this color and actually tied it into the stripe. And if you just heard what he had said, tied it into the actual engine itself, including the valve covers. And again, rather than painting the entire valve cover that color, they decorated it with that carbon fiber
and a lot
treatment.
of too, like we'll take like that brush treatment, it'll tie into the exhaust tips, the wipers, some parts on the interior. Like there's other brush elements in the truck to kind of tie that together, as well as the polished lip ties in with some of the chrome. And we try to pay a lot of attention to finishes and textures and kind of make sure everything works together.
Unbelievable. And Corey, if you can come over here one more time just with the camera. Again, I know Mark went over this and kind of briefly touched on what he had done, but to see this visually, the whole crew was over here looking at this truck when Mark was taking off. Mike Marcella, our service manager, had made a comment and said, "Look at the bumpers."
Yep.
And then once we got in here,
hardware too, which is the thing. Like if you look, all the hardware is gone out of the bezels. The grill's set back another inch from the factory grill. It's got custom inserts in it.
Love this whole treatment down here. The headlights, the way you guys designed all this. This is absolutely stunning. While we're on the subject of the front here, maybe you could just talk a little bit about the engine choice. And
so we started with a 495 horse crate motor from GM. It's one of their LS crate motors, LS3. It's got a 4L80 transmission from Performance Automatic. And we just kind of started with that platform, and then we didn't really need the extra horsepower, but we thought the supercharger would kind of add to the look of the truck, so we went with the Magnuson Heartbeat supercharger.
Which is one of the best.
Yeah, no, it's a great setup, and I ended up, when we dynoed the truck, it was right around 600 horse at the crank, and it made 548 at the rear wheel. So
and we do have a dyno video that I had gotten from Mark, so we'll make sure to include that in our other videos and so forth. But yeah, they actually did a full-blown dyno and everything. And what about the front runner system here?
So that's from Concept 1, and it's full serpentine system, all black anodized, AC power steering, 140 amp alternator, 8-rib serpentine belt on it. So that's a nice setup there, and everything's kind of neatly tucked away, and we tried to hide as much as we could, so you're seeing minimal wiring with it. Another nice thing about this truck is all the hardware throughout the body and the chassis is all stainless steel. All the brake lines are stainless steel. You'll notice too, like, we try to make nothing look out of place. So there's no blue and red AN fittings and stainless braided hose. Everything is black. Everything, just is either kind of hidden or it looks like it belongs there.
Unbelievable. Look at the radiator shroud here that you put. I mean, this is just this itself, all fabricated, handmade.
There's
handmade.
Weld seam through here is about 3 different sheets, pieces of sheet metal that fabricated that.
Give somebody an idea. Just give them an idea for the people that don't know. There's a lot of people who do know. There's a lot of people who don't know. Give me an example. This piece to make this piece, make it fit. Not only make it fit, but make it gapped.
Well, and that's just it. So on top of making this piece, like, this is a fabricated piece, this is a separate fabricated piece. So there's probably easy 150, 200 hours in this engine bay between all the parts, So just
think about hundreds of hours, okay? Hundreds.
I kind of thinking back, there was probably close to 100 hours in the bumpers. I know the dashboard has that amount of fabrication in it. So there's a lot of hours in fabrication.
Speaking of the interior, let's take a peek at that quick. So maybe you could talk to us a little bit about this. This is one of my favorite parts of this truck, is the interior, and maybe you can kind of tell us.
Yeah, and we kind of keeping with that late model theme. So the dashboard was all scratch built, so that started as flat 16 gauge sheet metal. The reveal line here was used. We used the Pullmax machine to stamp that beadwork in there. The gauges are Dakota Digital gauges. They're 69 Camaro style gauges, but we kind of used them because they had kind of an updated look. I thought the shape of the gauge tied in with the shape of the headlight bezel on the front of the truck. And
there you go.
We mimicked a mixture of like a Camaro styling on the dashboard as well as like a square body C10 dash pad, the way that comes around. We thought by doing that top stitch it would kind of mimic the late model Silverado. So that stitching is actually, at the time I had a 2018 Silverado and had that same stitching in it, so we kind of mimicked the stitching and the top stitch on the dash like that. The headliner materials out of a 2018 Silverado too.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And that console, maybe explain, so this has kind of a keyless go system?
Yeah, so it's got a push button ignition in it, so it's just got basically a key fob like your new car would have, and you just set the key there in the cup holder, and there's a transponder that picks that signal up, and you put your foot on the brake and hit the start button, and it'll fire right up.
Now, do you guys do your own interiors?
No, this was done by Buck's Customs in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, so Chris and his crew out there built, short of us doing the dashboard, they built the seats, door panels, console, everything was done from scratch.
And how does that work? Do you actually, during a build, you actually take the vehicle there, they have it for the amount of time they need, and they bring it,
exactly.
It back?
And depends, like this vehicle, when we had the renderings done for the outside of the truck, we did have some interior renderings done as well, just to kind of get the ball rolling and the styling and that, but and Chris will take those and kind of run with them and throw his own spin on it. But
he even went to the extent of putting the battery right behind the piece that's in between the bucket seats that you can actually take right off, and the battery is right there.
It's easily accessible. There is a kill switch under the truck though that you can turn the power off.
Power windows, tilt wheel.
Power windows.
Got all your
cup
your
holders,
cup holders.
late model GM. I did its tilt steering column. Some other things like all the dash knobs are off of a new Tacoma, I think they came off of, and the AC vents are out of an F-150 Lightning. So just we looked at some different things to try to just kind of run with that late model styling on it.
You and I could probably spend hours.
Yeah, there's a lot
of
details on this.
Check this out. I'm 6 foot, 200, well, maybe 210, sitting in this truck. Check this out. These C10s sometimes can be a little bit tight. look at the amount of headroom that I have. Look at the amount of space I have, even my legs. And this is with the tilt wheel. Look at this. So there's a lot of room in here. It's super comfortable. So I think my favorite part of this interior, like you had mentioned earlier, the Camaro style gauges, and you're referencing a new Camaro.
They're made for 69, but they remind you of a new Camaro.
It does, doesn't it? Reminds me a lot of a new Camaro here. So when I'm sitting in the car, again, right where my hand is, by the shifter, cup holders, power windows, everything is super accessible. But the interior is so modern, yet so just simple. I really, really love the interior.
With the Pioneer, sound system in its speakers and all that. So it's got the Bluetooth and everything. And
one last thing I would like to talk about in the back here, which was one of my favorite parts of the truck when I first saw it. So talk to us about the tailgate and what you did with it.
Once again, ton of fabrication work back here. So that tailgate, even though it looks kind of similar to a stock C10, it's completely hand built. So we didn't start with anything except flat sheet metal. So
oh my God! So you actually started. So this was something that was totally created by your shop.
So these edges were bent up. These profiles were done in a sheet metal brake and a Pullmax machine. The inside of this tailgate is completely different than a factory C10, and it actually mimics the factory beadwork here instead of what the C10 would look like normally. The other kind of neat thing about it is, so the bumpers on these trucks always look like they're kind of falling off and on a funky angle, so we wanted to move that up and tuck it tight into the body. So the bumper is moved up 1.5 inches, but what happens there is your tailgate no longer will fit. So this tailgate is 1.5 inches shorter than a factory tailgate. So everything, when the bumper came up, tailgate got narrowed up. These taillights are 1.5 inches shorter than the factory taillight. The other thing we did with them is normally there is a seam here, part of the bedside, trying to go with that late model look. We wanted the taillight to go all the way to the edge of the tailgate. So we built custom taillights. The housings are 3D printed. The lenses are machined out of acrylic. They're all LED lit. So just a lot of
even this treatment here from a distance, it actually almost looks 3D-ish to me.
Yeah, and like that's machined. We started with a piece of aluminum bar stock and CNC machined that and treated it to the same matte finish that all the other bumpers and everything have.
Married the front piece to the back piece.
Exactly. So it fabricated that whole rear pan.
Exhaust.
There.
You guys check this out in this camera here. Look at how they tied the exhaust. My favorite part into the back of this. We've got a 69 Camaro that we're going to be listing soon, custom. They did something very similar to that. I think it's spot on. And before we forget, real quick underneath, we talked about the Roadster shop chassis, we talked about the brakes, the wheels, the transmission. What?
It's a 4L80, I'm sorry, 4L60 automatic transmission. Yep.
Okay.
From Performance Automatic.
What about the rear end?
That is a Curry housing, 9-inch, 370 gears. It's got the TrueTrack Posi unit in it. And another nice thing, it's a great setup. Another nice thing about the chassis, it's all powder coated. So this truck can be driven. It's a show piece, but it can be driven. The whole underside of the truck has a spray-on bed liner. It's all color matched to the outside of the body. So it's something that you can go to shows with, but not be afraid to drive.
Right.
It's something that can be used. Aluminum gas tank from Boyd Welding, Holly fuel pump in it. So
it's amazing how many vehicles that you have built. How many would you say you've built?
A ton. I mean,
take a guess.
We've worked on hundreds of cars over the years. I mean, like big builds like this, we've probably had at least 30 over the past 20 years.
Isn't it amazing that you could have that many builds, but you remember every single detail of every vehicle? It's kind of crazy.
Well, and sometimes, like I said to you, when you're walking around, when we look at this stuff every day, you tend to forget sometimes all the details that are in it. But when you're looking at it and talking about it, you start to remember all the little things that were done to it, and the time you spent doing that stuff, the late nights in the shop getting it done. So.
And the last we forgot to mention, what is the name of this color?
It's called Cavalry Blue. It's
Cavalry
off of
Blue.
A 2018 Toyota Tacoma.
Absolutely gorgeous. Sometimes color makes a vehicle, no matter, in my opinion, the color, it's one of my favorite colors.
When I first showed this to the customer, he thought I was nuts, and then he called me one day and he said, I'm next to one at a traffic light, I love it, do it, and it was just something that sometimes you got to go out on a limb, I think, and take a chance with the color. And I think this truck, like if you start looking at the C10 industry, you'll see influence of this truck in a lot of other builds right now, whether I've seen numerous trucks on Instagram painted this color, or the similar hood treatments, or people doing similar bumpers, and you can see kind of the influence of the trend this truck set. I think that it was, when it came out, there was no other C10 like this. Nobody had done something to this level. And,
and wrapping up this video here, I want to ask, this is a on-the-spot kind of question for Mark, and I want him to be truthful and honest so people understand, because one thing at MS Classic Cars that we like to do is be very transparent. We like to tell people that we take these builds and we sort them out, we document the service work with an invoice, we detail them to the highest level, we stand behind what we sell and everything else. And we always like to tell people that if you're going to call somebody like Mark that has a great reputation at a facility, how long right now, okay, and this isn't coming from me, I already kind of know the answer, but I want to hear him say it. And I really haven't even asked him, I'm just curious to know what he says. If somebody called you and said, two things. Number one, I want to build a truck just like this truck. How long, if you got the ball rolling with them, deposit the whole thing, how long would it take for you to even start the build?
I mean, right now we're about 2 years out in our shop.
2 years.
We can start on new projects, and then a project to this level is probably a 2-year project as well. So
4 years. Okay, he's no different than anybody else. Some builders are actually further out than what he is. 4 years. Now, if I was again a customer on the other end of the phone, we're talking, I'm in California, you're in Pennsylvania, whatever the case might be. If I were to ask you to ballpark, and this is not a concrete number, but if I said, hey, in today's market with labor prices, parts prices, et cetera, we're not even talking about achieving all of the awards, because you got to understand, how, he said earlier, think of how many shows that he has been to, miles on his truck, trailer, out of the shop time, hotels, food, right?
Oh yeah,
gas,
it's endless. Yeah.
all of those SEMA shows and Good Guy shows and all this stuff that he goes to, these builders go to represent their products to get the exposure is extremely valuable. And this truck obviously has all that exposure. The magazines, I heard you on the phone earlier with Chuck, who's a friend of Mark's and so forth, and becoming a friend of mine. I just met him and I'm looking at buying something that he has, and they were joking on the phone about getting a photo shoot done for a car, and then you said it might, we get it, if we, at least it's going to take quicker than a couple of years to go to print. So just to get something to go to print is a big deal. So this is all stuff that's educational for the public that I think is important. But how much would you tell somebody ballpark in today's prices something like this would cost to build?
You know, probably like looking, and that's the thing with parts. I mean, you're just parts alone, you're well over $150,000 in parts in a truck like this. You know, when you start adding all that up, and then you start adding the labor up. So realistically, you're 300 plus in a truck like this. You know,
that's like what I expected.
You know, we're kind of, as you build more cars and the years goes on and the prices go up, like that's kind of where the industry is going, where it's pretty hard to build something this level for under that 250 to 350 range. You really need about a budget of that to get there.
So you hear it? This isn't me, Mark Scalero, used car salesman, whatever it is that you want to call me on the keyboard warriors or whatever the case might be. The reality is you're talking to a builder. We've bought some of the best cars from some of the best builders, and every single builder says the same thing: 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It's not something I'm making up. And they all say we don't even want to talk. It's not that we're trying to be rude or we're trying to be arrogant. It's just the reality of what it is. If somebody has a budget and it's 200 or less, we just can't do it because we're not building cars of that caliber. But to build something of this caliber, he said 250, 350. And once again, 40-year waiting time. Yeah, so
it's very hard. We're building a car right now that we started with a $200,000 budget, and midway through the project, we just got with the customer. Like it's just not realistic. The amount of time in the body, the paint work, the chassis, the supercharged motor. 10 grand on a set of wheels. It's hard to do, and it sounds insane. And when you start hearing these numbers on this stuff, and it's labor. Like I said, there's thousands of hours in this truck, and I mean, you take. If that bumper has 100 hours in it at $100 an hour, do the math on that rear bumper. You know what I mean?
And then, like you said earlier, you got to make it fit.
Exactly.
And then you got to start messing with the tail light. You got to mess with the tail.
When you're looking at that tail light, not only is somebody designing it, then they're drawing a CAD program in it, then they're going to machine it, then we've got to assemble it. So you could add. There's thousands of dollars in those tail lights just to get that stuff done. Yeah.
Well, we've done enough talking today. I just wanted to do this first look video. It's the first time we've ever done this, by the way, at MS Classic Cars. It was kind of a cool thing, and that was the idea of Mark coming here personally from Pennsylvania. He left early this morning and was to do this video here today. We've never actually done it. I think what we'll probably do is we'll publish this now. Corey can do what he does so great, and we'll get it live so everybody can see the video in maybe preparation for the truck going live probably within the next couple of weeks. We've got a lot of cool stuff happening. So we appreciate you watching this. We appreciate Mark. Make sure to check out his website, Creative Rod and Customs. They're in Pennsylvania. If you've got a long time to wait, you can get out. No. Anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, rock and roll.